If you've ever been to my office, you may have noticed a plant perched on a file cabinet next to the window. Has anyone seen it? Maybe you've noticed it. A few people. Yeah, good. Because the plant was a gift. It was given to me by our very own Carolyn Miller just after I arrived to Durango. I love this plant. It's unique to me, and Carolyn tells me it's a kind of cactus. I find the leaves enchanting. They are thick, dense, and the most beautiful green. And I want it to have a happy life in my office. And yet, it is slowly starting to slip away because I have no idea what it needs to survive and flourish. I water it every now and then, and when I have a visitor to my office, I ask if they know what this lovely plant might need, but mostly, I've not taken any responsibility for my learning, my growing, for the future of this plant. I've not taken any action, and honestly, this is sort of ridiculous because I could take a picture and ask the internet and instantaneously get a protocol for how to give this plant a great life. I could visit a plant shop for advice. I could watch a podcast on plant care and implement the recommendations. But I'll be honest, I haven't done any of these things. Maybe you hear, like I do, a hidden secret wish that this situation will sort itself out, even as this beautiful plant that I want to make a home for in my office withers away. It's interesting, and it makes me think about the value and work of inclusion, about the injustice of passive love, and the opportunities we miss to nurture flourishing, equity, and belonging in our world. It makes me reflect on accountability and responsibility in creating a world of flourishing for people, for life, and of course, for our Unitarian Universalist values and faith. How do we manifest love among us as we create communities of belonging that are radically inclusive? Black American speaker and author of I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness, Austin Channing Brown writes, I am confused by people who say they love us but are never upset when we are treated unjustly. The two simply cannot coexist. A love that's aloof isn't a love I have any use for. I need a love that is troubled by injustice. We should be troubled by the places where we notice our indifference, our passive hope that things will change without trying something new, our passivity and failure to learn, grow, and expand our understanding of what people need to feel empowered, valued, and seen, and we should be moved by love. We should be moved to transform our culture, our spaces and communities to welcome the whole of human experience. I'm inspired here by the teachings of American religious educator and Unitarian Universalist leader C.B. Beale, who invites us to consider a practice of preemptive radical inclusion as a way to challenge the aloofness and passivity that can creep into our lives and our ways of being together. C.B. writes, Preemptive radical inclusion is more than just a philosophical approach. It is an intervention, an activity, a process. Preemptive radical inclusion requires reflection and exploration, and it leads us to make decisions about what our next moves will be to involve everyone within those spaces where we have leadership and responsibility. Preemptive radical inclusion invites us to be curious, to learn, grow, and change as a gesture of love and care. It invites us to look at our lives beyond ourselves and think about how we might reorder the world so that it truly welcomes beings and bodies of diverse experiences and needs as an extension of our values, as a commitment to our love of life, as a commitment to each other and the earth. Preemptive radical inclusion invites me to get curious about the needs of this fishbone cactus plant that lives in my office. It turns out that the fishbone cactus doesn't love direct sunlight. It would prefer to sit perched somewhere else in my office, and if I had done the work, I would know that. And this plant, this life would have a chance to flourish. Such a strategy, preemptive radical inclusion, lives in process and community. It thrives in relationships of trust and growth. It is willing to have hard conversations about the truth of who we are. Preemptive radical inclusion calls us to make agreements about how we are together in order to welcome new voices, to share power and influence, and to connect more authentically and deeply. And I have an example. We know that a challenge of community, and it's not exclusive to us, I see this almost everywhere we go, is the habit of talking over one another. We get used to it, and we forget that this habit wields power. It silences historically marginalized voices among us, and it disempowers all of us. It signals the loveless aloofness that Austin Channing Brown describes. Using the practices of preemptive radical inclusion, we can intervene and interrupt and respond in new ways. Preemptive radical inclusion is being the first to state our pronouns, affirming gender-expansive identities. Preemptive inclusion is ensuring accessibility through technology, recognizing that for many of us, the COVID-19 pandemic continues and we remain vulnerable to the devastating consequences of illness as it moves through our communities. Preemptive inclusion is noticing opportunities to widen the circle of concern and belonging. And I'm reminded here of the overlap of C.B. Beale's radical preemptive inclusion with the work of radical hospitality. Unitarian Universalist Renee Rahutsky writes, "Radical hospitality is about putting our own assumptions up for examination. To me, this is the heart of Unitarian Universalism. No one claims to know the truth, but we know the way to get closer to the truth is to gather as a congregation and try to figure it out together. New people will bring new ideas. Different people will bring different ideas. And we can look at this either as a threat or as a gift." Over the last 2 days, my spirit has come alive in the presence of your imagination for the future of our congregation and community. I heard loud and clear a collective longing to meet the world in new ways, to live our values dynamically, intentionally, to explore how we can best serve the whole community by creating spaces for all humans of all abilities and ages and backgrounds and experiences. Spaces that honor our commitment to the earth and ecological justice, spaces that welcome neurodiversity, and I heard a collective commitment all weekend long to preemptive radical inclusion. And that is something to celebrate. I call this work radical this morning because it roots us in our faith values, in our commitments to each other and the earth, and a future of mutual flourishing. I call this work radical because now, more than ever, as we witness national attacks on those most vulnerable in our world, beloveds among us, we need spaces and places that are life-saving, life-affirming, bold, brave, and loving. We, as Unitarian Universalists, call this work radical because we inherit a tradition rooted in expansive, fearless, and courageous love. Love that moves us to put our faith into action, to be architects of the beloved community. Our reading this morning is another reminder of this imperative. The beloved community, rooted and held in love, takes commitment, struggle, and faithfulness, ritual and worship. It requires all that is holy of our lives, and it requires us to regularly proclaim the good news of our faith, to live the courageous faith at the heart of our mission. May we always remember that we don't build the beloved community alone, that we live in a deep interdependence and we need each other to survive and flourish.